Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Creatives. My name is Esther Stanford, and every time I do this introduction, I have such an overwhelming urge to say, my name is Michael Caine, but that's not relevant. Um, I am speaking today with the brilliant Rebbecca Hemmings. Now, I asked Rebbecca if she would be up for coming on and chatting with me, and she said, "Are you sure? I'm not really a creative," but she is. This woman started out as an actor, ran a theatre and education school and company. She is now an author, and she has forged her own career path. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do these conversations with creatives is because I work with so many people who say to me, I don't know how to make my own path. I don't know how to get behind doors. I don't know how to get to the through the gatekeepers. And that's why I want to have these conversations, because we don't know what we don't know. And so if I'm having conversations with people and they're telling me about how they make their creative lives work, then hopefully you will take nuggets of wisdom from that, or go, bloody hell, never considered doing it like that before, or that's a great idea, or maybe this, or maybe that, or I've never thought about, I think I'm a bit like that. So that is the reason. And Rebbecca's conversation is fascinating. This woman has created her own path, found her why, found her purpose, lent into it, and created a whole career. She's published a book. To publish her book, she even decided to start her own publishing company. She's amazing. Anyway, have a look, see what you think, and then I'll see you at the end.
You started out as a very much in the creative industries, didn't you,
Yes,
as an actress?
yes.
So we were both part of Central Junior Television Workshop together, which went on to become known as ITV Workshop, which was an amazing place to be and an amazing training ground. Did you start off wanting to be in the arts?
Well, no, if I think about being a child and what I thought then, no. I wanted to be, I think I started out wanting to be a teacher. And at one point, I wanted to work in a post office because I liked all things to do with admin. You know. But no, so I didn't start. I was a shy child. I was a very shy child. And how theatre came into my life is because during drama, really like my English teacher, and she was also my drama teacher. And once one lesson, she was like, right, I need someone to play my delinquent teenager. And so one by one, my fellow pupils went on the stage, and they weren't doing what I know Miss was asking them
Yeah.
to do. So I was thinking, I can't, it's not me, it's not my nature. But then I was kind of inside, something was just bursting out of me. And then I thought, finally, right, because nobody else was going up on stage, I thought, Miss, I'll do it. I said that, and went up on the stage, and I looked her in the eye and I said, I hate you, Mom. And it felt so good. It felt so good because we then went on to improvise, and I could be somebody that I hadn't been previously.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, I like this feeling. I like this outlet of being able to play in another person's world and then come back and be yourself. And it was amazing. So that's how I started. Mm.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I think there's a really common misconception. I ran a drama school for 10 years, and the number of people that would say, "Oh, I know this child, and they're really loud, and they'll be perfect for drama." And actually, often it's the quiet kids, because you were perceptive and you understood what was required of you. But also, it's not suppression or repression, but there is something that's quite nice to have that confidence, because if you're playing somebody else, you can
Yeah,
scream, you can shout, you can
absolutely.
say, "I hate you, mum," or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, and so you obviously also got what your teacher wanted. You could understand what she was saying.
Yeah.
So then how did you come to be an ITV Workshop?
It was from that really. Maybe my drama teacher had recommended it. She must have, because I don't know how else I would have known about it. We didn't have the internet then. It's not like flyers came through your door advertising it. So she must have mentioned it. And I remember going for an audition, and I got in. And that was it. I didn't look back. It was amazing. I think I was 14 when I entered. I just absolutely loved it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I was that shy child that was frustrated, particularly like on the telephone. Like I knew there was more inside me, but it wouldn't come out. So I remember being on the phone, just being like really, really shy and not making much conversation, but knowing inside my head was whirring because I wanted to say so much more. So that's what theatre allowed me to do.
Think, yeah, escaping into somebody else, it just, yeah, it just when you know you've got so much potential, but you're a little wary or shy or whatever,
Yeah.
it does give you that voice, doesn't it? I'm
Yes.
always surprised actually. Um, People are quite surprised when I say I was a really shy child, and there's a lot of performers I know that will say exactly the same, and you can't quite equate it to being the adult that's in front of you
Yeah.
to who was there. So when you were at the workshop, you did lots of theatre. Did you do TV and stuff like that as well?
Yeah, which was a fantastic experience. I didn't ever get any main roles. I was always an extra, but I loved it. We'd be chaperoned and we go to Nottingham, the Nottingham studios. I remember being a part of Woof. Do you remember Woof? When the
Yes,
boy
I was in
turned
Woof
into
as
a
well.
duck.
Yeah, I was down to the last few with Sarah Smart to be the main girl, and I got in the room and I was coming up to 12, and I absolutely panicked because I was with the little boy, the redhead boy that played Eric, and
Yeah.
I just got all my lines and it just all went out my head. I did a few rounds of auditions, yeah, made it to the last few, but we were so delighted Sarah got it because there was somebody in the audition that was a bit up themselves, and we kept going, "Sarah, you go and get it." But I did it. I did do Woof in the end as well.
Yeah. Our paths must have crossed so many times. I just don't remember. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, yeah, that's all right. That's all right. So you did TV and stuff like that, and then
Yeah.
and then tell me about when you left the workshop.
I actually don't remember leaving, but it must. I don't. Oh gosh, did it close down? I don't know. I don't remember what happened. But it just had given me a taste for performance, so I never stopped. I went on to go to college, sixth form college. There I took performing arts, and again, just found my home, found my people, found my space, found my outlets. From sixth form, I then went on to university to study initially a HND in performing arts. Again, great. It was like the English version of Fame, We just
Yeah.
went there, wrapped up in like so much drama, but we were really serious about our art, particularly physical theatre was my thing at the time, and commedia dell'arte, and all these wonderful forms of theatre. Um, and then that turned into me doing a serious degree in arts practice and cultural policy. But I'd already had that taste for not just performance, but how the arts can help to transform lives. And so I left university joining a theatre actually no. It was whilst I was at college that I joined a theatre and education company. When I left university, that's when I started my own theatre and education company.
And it's quite a bold move, isn't it, to start your own theatre and education company? One, why? And two, how did you know you could do it?
I knew I could do it, and why I did it was kind of connected to the same reason, really. So when I went to college, I met this fantastic lady who's still my friend to this day. In fact, the two of them are Sharon and Maggie. There was two of them. So Sharon was at my college, and she was doing performing arts, and she was a mature student. But she had a wealth of knowledge and she could really relate to us as young people. And she had a theatre and education company that she was running with her friend Maggie. Now, these were two Rastafarian women. They were vibrant, energetic, and their thing was about educating through motivation and inspiration. So they went around to primary schools. So theirs was the theatre company I worked with. I'd never seen anyone do this that looked like me. So I just thought, oh my gosh, it's possible. And so I had a whale of a time working with them for about 2 to 3 years. And then when I left university, I thought, I really like working with them. I really do. But I had ideas on what I wanted to do. I like playwriting. I wanted to put on my own plays. I wanted to really explore some deeper issues with regards to identity and culture. And so that's why. So I broke away, and I then set up my own company because I really thought we can do some powerful things with this theatre and education um, business. So yeah, I went straight into schools, and it wasn't just about identity at first. Admittedly, actually, it was about just general societal issues. I just felt as though it was a powerful tool to make change. So yeah,
And I think, do you is your family artistic? Were they in the arts at all?
tool. I
No.
mean, my mum, she was creative in that she liked to sew, so she was a seamstress and a baker at times, but not in terms of the performing arts or any sort of written. No, that was never in my family at all. I think also, I mean, I think what now I'm thinking about it, I feel a little bit like I'm in therapy. We had like a massive family, or we still have a massive family, and being a quiet person in a very huge family, in a loud Jamaican family, you have to try and make yourself heard. And I don't think I did that well when I was younger. So that's where my outlet came from. Yeah.
You can have a voice and people will listen to you, won't they? Because 'Cause they've got to pay
Yes.
attention if you're on the
Yes,
day.
they do.
Hello, I've got stuff I wanna say, but I don't quite know how to say it, and I think when you don't come from that kind of environment, women like Sharon and Maggie are mentors. We need mentors in our lives. We like you say, if you can't see it, you don't know you can be it, and it's so important that we see that in the world. And it sounds like you were very driven from quite an early age with making change, and those were the stories you wanted to tell. How did you go about writing them? What was your process? Where did you was it just you felt like this is what I want to talk about? I'm just going to
Yeah.
create stuff around it.
Yeah. So one of my first plays was based on a stimulus we got from, university. So I actually started writing it when I was at university. It was called Mr. and Mrs. Tragedy. And it was based on the life of King Henry VIII. And it was quite controversial, really. And I think to this day it would still be controversial because it was based on men that I'd come across in life, not personally, not like I've been in a relationship with them, but adult men, and the kind of the mistreatment of women. And so when I'd heard of the life of Henry VIII and how many wives he had and how he treated them, I thought, oh, that's not dissimilar to what I've seen around me. I am going to write a play about it. And so it was things like that where I really felt as though, that's not being spoken about. And actually, I think we do need to speak about it because it's a serious issue and everyone's trying to be a bit hush hush about it. And I remember one man confronted me. I was like, I think I was about like 17, 18 at the time. And looking at the play, well, women misbehave as well. He was a really aggressive, grown man to me. And it was the first time I really realized that, oh, okay, you're not supposed to really talk about these things, but I want to talk about it. That was my thinking. So yeah, I mean, it was always, my writing was always driven by things that were happening around me, or what I saw happening in society that didn't quite feel right.
And that you can influence a change by talking about it and getting people to engage with it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
and that's quite because I think sometimes because I write, I've had a few plays on and sometimes you don't know if it's just you. And then when I first started writing, there were pieces I was putting out online. And then the response I was getting was really big and really like everybody was in agreement. And I thought, oh, good. So I'm normal then. We do
Yeah,
all have these same thoughts.
yeah.
And actually giving people a voice is so important. So what was your actual process for writing the play? How did you go about it?
Good question. I don't think I've even thought about this since I've written the plays. And the last time I wrote a play, gosh, was about 20 years ago. But I think I allowed the play or the voices of the characters to flow through me. Like it was really a natural process. Mm. I mean, with something like Mr. and Mrs. Tragedy, but being based on King Henry VIII's life, that was easy because there was already a structure. So I didn't have to sit down and think about what is the structure of my play, because it was already there. Actually, I did it again. So I think to start with, my way of writing was to take a known structure, because I also wrote Girls Can't Hip Hop, which was a musical. And again, that was based on this idea that I loved hip hop music. I'd go out to the hip hop raves, but all the DJs were men. And there was, if you were going to be, you weren't taken seriously. I used to rap, and I wasn't taken seriously as a rapper, or not seriously enough. And the role for women then seemed to be like, put some little, what they call, can I say this, body riders on.
Right. I mean, I've never heard the term, but I instantly know what you mean.
Yes, some little tiny shorts.
Yeah.
Prance around in someone's video. So I didn't like that. So I wrote Girls Can't Hip Hop, which again was based on Cinderella. So the main character was Hip Hoperella. And yeah, so again, I had this structure already there, through which I could then not only bring the characters to life, but also then work through these really serious issues. And obviously Girls Can't Hip Hop really meant girls can hip hop.
Yes. Yes.
And that was the idea. Of bringing Hip Hoperella out of this really oppressive household. And in the end, she gets to do a massive showcase. I mean, it wasn't anything really deep and nuanced. It really was Cinderella, but it's, Hip Hoperella. So yeah, that's how I started writing my plays. As time went on, they were more issue-based, more serious, because then we started to think about, well, what are we taking into schools? And so then, for instance, we had Birmingham Road, which was around diversity, the diverse, beautiful nature of Birmingham, and learning more about different types of cultures. So we'd had like 4 cultures, like a Polish culture, a Muslim culture, and whatever. And the children would get to visit each property and each family, and learn more about the families. Gosh, I've not spoken about these for years. And so, yeah, again, it always started with, what is the issue we're trying to highlight? And then again, I think afterwards it became more about, okay, now we're thinking about the structure afterwards, but initially it was already there. Yeah.
And did the schools tell you what they wanted highlighting, or did you offer them up something?
Sometimes, sometimes we got asked to go in schools and perform, teach the children about slavery once for Black History Month. That was a thing. Or a particular Pablo Fanquar, who was, I think, if I remember rightly, he was a Victorian black man who was in a circus or something. So then, yes, when we were given the stimulus, I would then go away, research, and write the performance, which I loved doing, because then I learned lots too. So yeah, it was a bit of both.
Did you find it easier to come up with your own thing, or did you prefer the school saying, do this topic?
Neither was easier or harder. Was there one that I liked doing more? I think I probably liked being asked to research, because I would learn something that I might not have learned, or probably wouldn't have learnt otherwise. So, because I've always loved learning. So yeah.
When it comes to the hip hop,
Yeah.
Girls Can't Hip Hop, did you write the raps? Did you write the music as well?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's so cool. Can you remember any of it? I mean, I'm not, unless you really want to.
You know what? It's funny you should ask, because I recently saw a clip of this on YouTube that I put in there ages ago.
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. There's a tiny
right
little
down
clip.
there.
Or it could be on Facebook. Don't quote me
Okay.
on that. It's definitely on my Instagram page, because I posted it probably in the last 5 months or so. But I can point you to it. I'll tag you
I
in
will
it.
find it.
Yeah.
Made a note.
But gosh, what did I say? So I was playing the fairy godmother. Well, I'm a mystify the people with the scenario. Rella missed the show. No, she's got to go. You're right. Can't remember it.
It's been 20 years. It's brilliant that you. Well, it's brilliant that you can remember it. I wish I'd seen it.
The funny thing was, as much as we were trying to teach people about authentic cultures, we weren't being completely authentic because, as you may have heard, I was using an American accent. So in that time, as many rappers, British rappers did at the time, we still weren't completely okay with our own identities as Black British people. So we felt we had to do that. So, but yeah, side note.
Think at that time though, like 90s, 2000s, early 2000s, it was like if I think everybody sang with an American accent,
They
didn't they?
still do.
Yeah, they still do. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's quite unusual to hear somebody sing with their own accent. I don't even think I would know quite how to actually. But you're right, because I've never really considered that in terms of authenticity. So you created Strawberry Words. Why Strawberry Words?
Well, I'll go backwards a bit because it wasn't called Strawberry Words initially, although that is where Strawberry Words derives from. So it was called Harvey Arts, as that was my surname at the time. So I was just really, there's no thought going into that. It was just Harvey Arts, last name Arts, that's it.
Yeah.
Um, and then it then evolved into soliloquy because I thought, oh, I really need to think about this name and give it some depth. So I thought of soliloquy because I did a lot of work with the Royal Shakespeare Company, and you know, in Shakespeare plays, there are lots of soliloquies. This idea that one is having a conversation or discourse with oneself and really trying to grapple with two sides of the arguments, right? But people couldn't say it. So like, you know, I'd have like secretaries from school calling up saying, is that Rebbecca from and it happened so many times. I thought, I mean, I had this registered with Companies House and everything, but people just could not say the words. So in the end, I
Yeah.
scrapped that. I quickly went off, had my daughter. And then when I decided I'm going to come back with with full force, I then changed it to Strawberry Words. And so Strawberry Words, again, speaks to our beginnings as a creative company. So words are primarily what we use to communicate. The average strawberry has over 200 seeds on the outside. So we like to think that with every workshop, training session, performance when we were still doing them, we're planting seeds of knowledge, growth and development. And particularly because we discuss quite tricky topics, we know that sometimes you're just planting a seed. You're not going to have everybody really fully come to your point of view or really understand in that moment. And that's still the case to this day.
Yeah, that's a really nice way of thinking about it, because that was something that I see with you and your work is that you get people to consider things in a different way, but you also come at that with a lot of compassion and understanding. Like, we're planting the seeds that might not land for you today, but I'm just going to tell you. And then, how did you get to that place? Have you always been that person?
I've definitely always been that person. It's so funny again we're having this conversation because I was thinking about um when I was younger, just this morning. So my job was to pack away. Probably was about age 7 or something. My job was to pack away the plates and the knives and forks and whatever after washing up. And I remember we had like 2 different patterned knives and forks, and there was more of one than the other. So whenever I would pack away, I always made sure that the one that was very different to all the others, that was the one that was plain and not patterned, was kept company by the others. It's really, really silly, but yeah, it made me realize, thinking back on it, yeah, I've always been empathetic. I've always rooted for the underdog. It's just in me. I think part of it comes from my mom, because she would speak a lot about some of the wrongs in the world as we were growing up, and so we'd see the world. You know, I grew up in Aston, Birmingham, when there were riots, the Handsworth riots, which weren't very far from where we lived. I remember once when one of the riots was happening, my mum coming to pick us up from school. And we're like, what's going on? What's going on? And she explained the riots were happening and that shops were on fire. And so you have all these images, like, although I couldn't see it, but you had all these images in your head. And you start to, you know, when I was younger, I started to learn about, oh, well, that doesn't quite look right. Or that's not really fair treatment. And I was just always been very moralistic like that. Yeah.
I totally get you with the spoon or the fork or the cutlery. The number of teddies that I have bought through my life, not recently, but with like a wonky leg, I would go, I'm going to buy that one because no one's going to buy it, and I'm going to
That's right.
I'm like, I better pick that cup because no one ever picks that cup and that cup. It's so weird, isn't it? It's just, but also it does. I think going back to what you were saying about your English teacher and what she was asking for, it's almost like you can see beneath the layers, you can see the nuance, and then of a situation, and the actual sort of the humanness of it and what's
Yeah.
required, and so that you can. Do you think that's what sort of, because a lot of work that you do now is around race, and and you do you when you come up against somebody who may be not quite so understanding, do you think that the compassion towards them then comes from the fact that you can understand that they've just maybe been raised in a different way, or they have a different perception, or
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of things. I think, yes, I always try and see every single person. I do see every single person as a human being, even when their view is drastically different from my own. Um, I, I, Part of the company's values is that we are compassionate. So we're trauma informed. So that goes for everybody. Trauma informed meaning that we're going to make sure that this is a psychologically safe space for every single person. So, whilst not everybody will see it this way, some people will think, well, if you're not on the receiving end of discrimination, then you don't deserve compassion. I don't believe that. I think at the end of the day, yeah, okay, I'm going to pause to come back to that. We all deserve compassion. So I attend practical practical philosophy classes, and last week our session was about love. And the underlying message of a lot of philosophers, Rumi one is being one of them, is that everybody naturally has, I can't remember the word for it, but a really deep love deep inside of them. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that theory or philosophy then, like back in the day, but I only learned it last week. But I feel like I've always known it. So when we're in sessions, I'm thinking that there is always that part within somebody that is going to connect, because I know that 99.9% of all human beings have the same genetics. Again, going back to Shakespeare, what's his name? Shylock, um, Jewish man who says, I'm going to forget the play that he's in. Okay, but he basically, a lot of people were against him because he was Jewish, and he says, do I not bleed? And
Yes.
yeah, all of that. So basically, when someone's sick in our family, we all feel sad. Whenever someone passes away, again, we're sad. When somebody graduates, we're all happy. Babies are born, we're happy. As human beings, we all share that. So I have that fundamental knowledge deep down inside. No matter how somebody's been,
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, it's not easy. It's not always easy.
No.
It really isn't always easy. And sometimes I really got to work, to get round, um, to see other people's point of view, but I will always treat them with respect. Yeah.
There's a very famous speech, isn't there? And I can't think of the guy's name, that he made in the Houses of Parliament. I think it was in the 90s, and it was around the NHS. And he was talking about, people coming from war-torn countries and saying, does a mother not cry when she loses her child just because she's from another country? And I think he actually quoted some of that speech. And I
Okay.
think it's really important to be able to have conversations where it is safe to say, quote unquote, the wrong thing, so that you can move through stuff together, and so that you can understand other people's point of views and perspective, and maybe change each other's points of views and perspectives. I think we're sort of, we've gone sort of into a funny old time, haven't we, where you we've almost flipped too far, where you can't say anything, and then people are afraid to speak. The more people are afraid to speak, the more hatred rises up, because it becomes a bit, or do you not agree with that?
Not sure if I do, because I think in a way it's the opposite. I
Oh,
think
okay.
I think a lot of people now are emboldened because of certain
Oh,
people in politics, which we
yeah.
shall not name.
No.
I think they're emboldened to be very discriminatory, certainly racist,
Yes.
and and it's not just about race, because we
No,
don't
no,
just
no.
talk about race. We talk about discrimination as a whole, uh, about women, views on women, views on children, views on disabled people, and so on. I could go on. So I think a lot of people feel like they can just, say whatever willy-nilly. Now, in me thinking about doing this work within organizations, I had to think about, "Ooh, what personal impacts would this have on me?" Um, and I always knew that when people in the workplace, there is that buffer. Most people do not want to be sacked. So there's only so much they're going to say. But in society as a whole, that's different, you
Yes.
know?
Yes, and I think that's I suppose what I mean is the people use the fact that they feel like they could be cancelled and can't talk about things, then these voices rise up and say they're cancelling you, so we're going to say all the things that we've been told we can't say because we're rebelling, and then that makes some people start saying really truly awful stuff. And I think communication is just so important, and like to be not to say awful things to each other, but just to be, if you sit with most people, like you say, most people are lovely, and ultimately most people want the same things. It's just who they're listening to and how they're being told to, being given an allowance to operate in the world, and go on.
Yeah, I think social media doesn't help
No.
because so many people can be whoever they want to be, say whatever they want to say, whereas they probably wouldn't be as bold in real life.
Yeah.
So, I think if we didn't have social media, I don't think things would be as bad as they are, but we are where we are.
Yeah.
And I know what I know to be true is that, when we're sat in rooms and people are genuinely open, because you have to be vulnerable to have really open conversations about some tricky issues around identity and culture. When people are humble enough to do that and vulnerable enough, we have some really interesting conversations and we all learn. We all
Mm.
learn. It's not for one group of people to learn and that's it. It's about learning about others. And okay, I am going to kind of bring up my book here only because it's relevant.
Well, I want to talk about your book, and
Okay.
absolutely.
Well,
Oh,
well, because okay, so my book is around this idea of cultural humility. So this is my book here. Okay, so
well done you, because
thank
bloody
you.
hell, you've written a book.
I
That's
have.
amazing.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. So it's a cultural humility approach to anti-racism. So cultural humility, it comes from the USA. It's a framework. And it was created by two African American doctors, uh, Dr. Melanie Tervalon and Dr. Jan Murray Garcia. And so they were very used to as medical doctors attending cultural competency training, which basically, it's where you learn about a particular culture and um and how they do things. But what they found was it was very restrictive, and it was basically like a tick box exercise because it's in the wording cultural being competent. State me kind of leans to there's an end point. So all Somali people do this, and reacts like this, and all Asian people they're I don't know sensitive to pain or whatever it might be, and so stereotypes were formed, and they just felt like it didn't do enough, and there's no real compassion, and there's no commitment to beyond the session to keep learning. So cultural humility is about constantly self-reflecting about your interactions and knowledge, beliefs around others, committing yourself to learning for life about different cultures, but also power structures, and also within an organizational in context is also making sure that you do all those things and the voices of the marginalized people are heard. So coming back to what I was saying, that so when we're in sessions with people, essentially it works best when people have that frame of mind where they wanting to continue to learn. They develop that curiosity for other people and for different systems they may not know much about, and that they keep reflecting. And ultimately, all of this is rooted in love for other human beings. Yeah.
And that's beautiful. And what, because you have really, part of why I want to do these conversations is I have lots of conversations with people who go, I don't know how I make my creative life work. And as long as the older I get, the more I realize that it's not necessarily just about being an artist or being an actor or being a writer or being a painter or a musician or whatever. It's about creating the path and living the life that you want to lead and making that work. And obviously, you started with strawberry words and you still have strawberry words, but that sort of evolved a bit into less performances,
Or
and
performances now.
no
Yeah.
performances. And you've sort of gone slightly down a different path. What is the reason for that? What has been the driver for that for you?
Um, so parts of it has just been p- being influenced by politics. So when we were working in schools, we were seen as, obviously a creative company. And so I think it was around 2010 that the government started to reduce funding for creativity within schools. And so that instantly was, okay, we got to start thinking about other types of work because, we're not getting the work that we were getting. So we were already doing the training. And so it just made more sense that we continue down that road. Um, Also, I felt okay. Let's just keep it real. So 2017, I got cancer for the first time, and I took a break. And when I came back, I just felt like actually I really want to be really, really intentional about how we move forward. So I had a part time job for a couple of years where I was working in the criminal justice system, and I really saw the disparities of the treatment of racially marginalized people within the legal systems. It's awful. And then George Floyd happened, and I just felt, okay, right, there's work to be done. There is work to be done. That's when we got really serious about the race issue. And so yeah, that was it. I got back to work full time, and that's what we did.
Yeah. So you're, because I'm always interested what somebody feels their purpose is and what their why is. And did you feel just a desire that you didn't, like you say, you wanted to get more intentional, but also you had less of a desire to perform?
Well, we'd kind of stopped performing anyway. I think what it
Yes, I
was
suppose
when
you mainly did it through
yeah.
school
So before
and
I
weren't
got
you? Yeah.
ill, we were still doing a bit of performance. And then and I also should let you know that I had a whole other life in that I was a fitness instructor teaching Zumba.
Wow.
Yeah.
You see, but you're sort of creating your own path constantly, aren't
Yeah. So
you?
I always wanted to be self-employed. And so,
Yes.
you're making it work however you can. And I did enjoy fitness. And then I also felt that my job was to help people be happy and healthy. So when I got ill and I was coming out of it, as recovering, I just felt like I went to therapy. And I realized that a lot of the work that I did for validation. I didn't realize it before. I did for validation. It makes sense now, right? When you think about my English teacher and why I started theatre, right? I wanted that validation. I wanted people to see me, to hear me. And so once I'd worked through that, I realized I don't need it anymore. I don't need it. Like, it's nice, but I'm okay. So I stopped doing the fitness stuff. I mean, part of that was physical anyway, about how I was recovering, and I just didn't want to do it. But also with regards to the business, I didn't need to perform. I didn't need to be on stage. And what was more important was the message, not how the
Mm.
message was delivered. And so we were doing the training. That's what it was called for. That's what we kept getting asked for. And so I went with it.
Do you think the performing for a long time gave you a voice and you didn't need to maybe hide behind that anymore? You'd got your own voice. You were a grown woman and found your own voice.
Partly. But I think, no, I still think it was the therapy
Yeah.
after being ill that really made me realize,
Yes.
actually,
Yeah, you were doing it for the like you say, the validation.
yeah. And
So
I think a
talk
lot of people do that now that I have
Yeah,
experienced that. And now I look at people and I'm like, oh, yeah, I get that.
yeah. Well, totally. I've heard, Alan Dr. Alan Botan talking, and they say, "How do you know when you've done some good parenting?" And he says, "Your kids don't want to be famous."
There you go.
Uh, um, so talk to me about how the hell you wrote a bloody book, because that's amazing.
So in the beginning, 2020, I started by doing a couple of webinars on anti-racism, and just kept getting lots of people, like academics and like the Lord Mayors and people from the government, like coming to these free webinars. I'm like, okay, this is getting
You're like, "All right,
scary.
boys."
Well, no, I wish. Right. But it's actually some pretty significant people. Not that no, everyone's significant, but I mean,
Yes, but I know
as
what you
in
mean.
people
Like
you
people,
would
yeah,
know. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so I thought, okay, right. And we're getting lots of work from it. And initially at that stage, I say I had an admin person, and it was me. And I thought, well, I can't keep doing all this work, even though everything was online at that time. I thought I need to write a course. So I wrote our very first anti-racism course, Time to Talk About Race, which is still available, still out there. And I'm always about doing things properly. So I got it CPD accredited, which it needed to be a certain standard. And then I started writing more courses. So, and it's quite a lot to write these. I kept saying to myself, it's like writing a book. So I was like, oh. Why don't I write a book? So initially, my book was around the work that I was doing, anti-racism, and teaching people, about what racism is, microaggressions, unconscious bias, all that sort of stuff. And like it was an introduction to anti-racism. But then about 2.5 years ago, we won a contract to work with Public Health Birmingham around this idea of cultural humility, which at the time we hadn't heard of. But as soon as we started doing the research, myself and colleagues, um, I was like, we all loved it. We all loved it because it was rooted in love, and it was so very similar to the very values that we shared, the same values of compassion and respecting all and all of that. And so, we then were teaching this to doctors, nurses, public health staff, senior leaders, and so on. And so, with every workshop, with every and we were training people to become trainers. So we really became engrossed in the world of cultural humility. And I was just sold on it. I was like, there is no way I'm just going to put out a book on anti-racism, because actually I don't even know if I'm adding more to the conversation than what's already out there. But what I know is not out there is this idea of cultural humility. And what we found when we were delivering the sessions was that people were not so nervous about having the conversation, because we started about talking about our own lives and our own cultures and learning about other people's cultures and, popping on the map where you most relate to and, just the fun stuff to begin with. And people were really into it, which then allowed us time and space to go into the more difficult or tricky areas, and people were a lot more open to listening, and there was lots of self-reflection, lots of beautiful conversations, and yeah, it just felt so right. And so it was around that point, around probably about 18 months ago, that I thought, I have to put cultural humility in this book. It has to be a major part of this book. And that's how it became the book that it is, a cultural humility approach to anti-racism.
You're very, it strikes me that you are, integrity is hugely important to you, because you said, I'm not putting anything out if it doesn't help with the conversation. If it's not adding to the conversation, then I'm not doing it. It feels to me like integrity goes across all of your work, that it's, would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I've been in business a long time, since 2001. And I think if I didn't have integrity as the founder, I'm not sure how far the business would have gotten, because I know what I look like. I know what I represent. I've got to be real. I do the work that I do. I'm a woman. I'm a Black woman. And that's what people see first and foremost. Maybe you don't see it in my name, but once you see me on screen or you hear my voice, that's who I am. And so I know what can come with that are all sorts of negative impressions, or not always negative, but just people being a bit tentative, being not sure. And so it's always been instilled in me, and I think I do it to myself, in that it's just got to be of a. I mean, I think I do it anyway. It's not just about my identity. I think I'm that sort of person. I think no, I'm not perfect, but I do lead my
You
life
sound
with
pretty
quite.
perfect to me, Rebecca.
I wish. I wish. Yeah. No. So there's part of it is what I know I will come up against within the world of business, but part of it is just part of my nature.
Yeah. Yeah. And for the actual process of writing the book, what do you do? Lock yourself away? Do you write in short bursts?
Well, during the pandemic, that was easy because there was lots of time when my daughter was in bed. I could just write away in the living room. But as it got closer, the intense part of the writing came probably about a year ago. Where one weekend I took myself to a hotel. And I locked myself in that hotel for 2 days. I was like, okay, let's breathe, and it was a lovely hotel where in the mornings you walk and you're walking amongst deer. And I was like, oh, great, I'm inspired. Now let's get back. So I tried to make the writing process not necessarily fun, but beautiful so that it was an enjoyable process in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah, to be honest, my mind's got a bit blank, but I would just be home, just tapping
You
away.
do it.
Most of it was written at home, and it was in short bursts. It's only towards the end that I really felt like I needed to put more time in. So then I probably put in like 5-hour days, but never more than that because there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. And you've got a business and a child and a life, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah.
And how did you is it self-published? Is it published with a publishing
I
company?
I formulated, I created Orchard and Ink Press. So yes, and yeah, yeah, so I have a publishing
Same.
company. Yes, and so because I thought, well, if I'm going to publish this book, if I'm going to go through this whole process, I might as well just have a publishing company. So yes,
You are so brilliant. Because the thing
oh
is, one of the things I think about so often is gatekeeping. You wait for gatekeepers. Fuck it, just start a
yeah.
company.
Yeah, and that's been the story of my life,
Yeah, but
because I
that's
wanted
what
to
I
act
love.
initially, and yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Right, I do it myself. So yeah, that's what I've done. And the idea is that eventually I will publish other authors' books, that are geared around again just enlightening the world. Yeah.
Yeah, Orchard and Ink, and I've got so many questions now, Rebecca. So how did you like, where did the name come from?
Oh, Orchard and Ink Press. Don't remember, being very honest. Where did it come from?
It just
It was no,
landed.
it was me thinking about where ideally would I love to be writing from, and an orchard, be laying down on a blanket, being in an orchard. It's the sun shining. It's just being that gorgeously fragrant environment. That's where I'd love to be, and obviously
Yes.
the ink is the
Yes.
pen. Oh yeah, it was
Yes,
that
yes, yes.
visualization of me being there. Yeah, that's where it came from.
And how did you go about setting it up?
Um, gosh, well, just like with everything, like with it's like the same with it's like a project. So what is the vision for this? Um, gosh, that- just these very complicated questions.
I
Don't know.
know. I
I
want to
don't
get
think
more
it
specifics,
was just like
Rebecca. How do I
it was
start a publishing
It
company?
was just like a project, like because most things start as a project for me. So it's writing that plan. What's the vision? What's the purpose? Who are you looking to publish? But I didn't go into that greater detail because the priority was getting the book out.
Yeah.
So I
Did you have to go and find yeah, and what about the physical printing of the book? How did you know where to get that done?
so I had a meeting with a publisher at the beginning of the journey, and she walked me through. She was really generous with her information. She
Brilliant.
walked me through the entire thing. I knew that you can get books published through KDP on Amazon, but what is the name? When you put all your information in there, that's where bookshops will buy your books from. Like, they won't buy it off Amazon. They'll buy, oh, what is it? Ingram Sparks. That's it. Ingram Spark. Yeah. So that's where all bookshops, Waterstones, everyone, they go to purchase people's books. So if your book's not on there, then bookshops won't purchase it.
God, I think you are so inspiring. And I just keep going back to the fact that when I asked you if you'd come on here and you said, I'm not a creative. And then you're, you're like, well, I wrote plays and I set up a company and I've written a book and then I opened a publishing company. And it's like,
Yeah,
you're so
actually.
creative, aren't you? If you want something to happen,
Yeah.
you've just made it so. You've written courses, you've done all of these things and you've put so much good out into the world. Do you think that creativity requires courage?
It certainly requires courage when you want to share your work, because it's like your little baby, for one. It requires courage if you're trying to make money from it, because not everybody is going to want what you are trying to give to the world. Yeah, actually, I think for those are the two main reasons why it requires courage. And I've learned over the years not just to create something and throw it out there and hope for the best. Like, the things that I have created, I've made sure, like, my business head knows that, there takes three key areas for, if I'm just talking about business and creativity, for businesses to be successful, and that is, you're passionate about whatever the topic is. Number two, you've got the skill to be able to do whatever it is, and three, that there's a demand. So when those three things overlap, that's the sweet spot. You're going to do a good, you're doing a good thing. So yeah, so it's not, I think, when it comes to being creative and wanting to sell your creations, if those things aren't in place, don't bother, unless you're simply doing it for yourself. And that's,
Do you do anything creatively that is not related to your work?
I started knitting recently. I've been knitting on and off probably probably since I was 10 years old, and I've never really learned. I know how to knit basic stitches. Do you even call them stitches? Yes, but I've never knitted like a jumper or something. So I've always been knitting a scarf. So the progress is that I now have a scarf that's probably about that long. And I'm like, yes, it's the longest my scarf has ever been. So if I keep going, by winter, I might have a scarf I can wear. So that's something I
Wrap it
do.
round your house if you keep going like that. Save on the heating.
Yeah. And I've started gardening, which I find not really therapeutic. I don't know if you can call that being creative. Well, I suppose so, because you have to. I do like it to look good. But I find it, yeah, very, very therapeutic, and just, yeah, good all round. Yeah.
I think I find myself being drawn to gardening more and more. I'm 48 now, so must be to do with that as well. But
Yeah.
also, I think it's just the fact that it's the peace, isn't it? I think anything that sort of gets you out of your head. I think I find a lot of creatives, like, I'm awash with constant ideas, and it's choosing the ones to execute or not. But sometimes to do something that isn't actually going to be put out into the world, or that just switches my brain off, is so helpful. I think gardening, it just calms your brain, and knitting, you're just repeating the pattern, and
Yeah.
it's really
Well,
great.
usually with knitting, I can't just sit and do it. It's usually when I'm like on a Zoom, not like this. Like, I'm on a Zoom call and I'm not participating, and I get fidgety and like, right, put something in your hands, right, and then I can just do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you have any other ambitions? Any other things you want to do with Strawberry Words, or any of the books you want to write?
I do. I'm not sure how much I want to say at this stage, but um, I'm just at a point in my life where I really want to go back to what I think was my original purpose. I've always been a person who wants to serve, for want of a better term. And last week, actually, again, in our practical philosophy class, the teacher said, you are not responsible for waking a sleeping person or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, all my life I've been waking sleeping people. Like, what do you mean? She goes, it takes so much energy, Rebecca. Like, that's just not your role. And I thought, wow. So I want to take on board more of that. It doesn't mean that I'll stop teaching or wanting to help people being better, but it just means I'll focus more on my wants rather than thinking the world needs this. Uh, Strawberry words will always be strawberry words. We'll always deliver the types of training that we have been delivering. But I think in addition to that, there is more work that I've got to do. That's all I'll say at this stage because it's not
Yeah.
fully formulated, so I don't want to share until it is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. I think you are brilliant. I think the things that you create, I mean, you are so inspiring. I want to write a book. Do you know what? I'm going to start my own publishing company. I'm going to publish it under my own name and honestly, where's your practical philosophy group? I'm going to ask you that in a minute because that sounds like a group I want to be part of. I love that kind of stuff. And those sort of nuggets of wisdom. I think that's really important, isn't it? Sometimes you feel like you got to help the world, and sometimes that means you end up putting yourself second. And I think that's a really good, I don't know what it is, metaphor or analogy, or not every sleeping person wants to
Philosophical
be woken up.
statement. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for giving me your time today and talking about your creative journey, your career that you have created, and the work that you do and your processes. It's been so lovely to talk to you.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure.
I mean, I'm a bit of a broken record at the end of every episode, but I'm going to say, isn't she brilliant? I mean, I just took so much from that conversation. And the whole thing about if you're starting a creative business, the 3 things that you have to cross as to whether it will fail or succeed, I didn't know that. I think that's such an invaluable piece of information. The fact she started her own bloody publishing company as well, how amazing. And those little bits of information around that, I think, and how she's constantly thought creatively about, I can't do it like this, I'm going to run courses. Yeah, I had a lovely time talking with Rebbecca, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Underneath there'll be all her details about, if you want to work with her or if you want to follow her online, not to her house, will be down below on the write-up bit. Very articulate woman. And I will be back next week. I have some amazing guests lined up. I still don't actually have any men yet, though. Don't think that that's a deliberate thing. I love men as well as I love women. But the women are proving easier to pin down and have a chat with. Anyway, I shall bugger off. You have a lovely week, and I will see you next week. Lots of love.